the subject per se, we should know about the anatomy and the normal physiology of an intervertebral disc. So what is an intervertebral disc? As the name suggests, it is a disc-like structure in between the two vertebrae. That is why it is called as an intervertebral disc. So I always used to compare this intervertebral disc with a center fresh chewing gum. It's because it has an outer tough layer called as the annulus fibrosus and an inner gel-like consistency a material called as the nucleus pulposus. So this nucleus pulposus is nothing but a remnant of notochord during the embryogenesis. And this annulus fibrosus is made up of concentric lamellae, and it is a tough structure just like the center fresh chewing gum. And when we commonly use the term intervertebral disc prolapse, it is basically the prolapse of the inner gel-like consistency material, that is the nucleus pulposus, which is coming out through the outer layer, which is called as the annulus fibrosus. And as we all know from the basic anatomy, that the intervertebral disc is an anterior structure, and posterior to that what we have is the cord at the level of thoracic spine and the dura at the level of lumbar spine, and through which we get the nerve roots. And when this nucleus pulposus comes out, it directly compresses the dura or the nerve roots, and it results in the symptoms. So again, this is another image showing the neural and vascular structure. We have to be very clear about this. The disc is a aneural and an avascular structure. That is, there is no neural supply and there is no vascular supply to the intervertebral disc. But however, the outer layers of annulus is richly vascular and richly neural. That is why in an initial stage of disc prolapse, I'll be discussing that in the symptomatology, when the disc comes out, when the nucleus pulposus comes out through a tear in the annulus fibrosus, the patient will have severe excruciating pain. It is because of the rich neural supply to the outer layers of the annulus fibrosus and the end plates. This particular portion is richly neural and richly vascular, whereas the inner portion is avascular and aneural. We have to be very clear about that. And this entire unit forms the intervertebral disc. It is not only the annulus fibrosus and the nucleus pulposus, but it is also the cartilaginous end plate, which is here. This is the cartilaginous end plate and the bony end plate. These two, again, it forms what is called as the intervertebral disc. This is the applied anatomy, and you can see the intervertebral disc along with the nerve root here. So this is the nerve root which is coming out of the neural foramen, and this is the intervertebral disc. And as you can see in the axial view, this is the spinal nerve which is coming out, and it divides into the dorsal ramus and the ventral ramus. And you can see a nerve here which is called as the cyanovertebral nerve, which is usually a nerve directly from the spinal nerve, or it can come out from the dorsal ramus. And this nerve takes a U-turn, and this is the main nerve which supplies the outer layers of the annulus fibrosus, and that is responsible for the pain stimulus from the annulus fibrosus. This is again the sagittal view where you can see the intervertebral disc, and this is the exiting nerve root which is coming out of the neural foramen, and this is the spinal cord or the dural sac with the other nerve roots which you can see here. Now, what is the difference between the cervical region and the lumbar region? This is the spinal cord in the cervical region, and these are the exiting nerve roots in the cervical spinal region. As you can see, this is the C4 vertebra and this is the C5 vertebra. The C5 nerve root comes out above the C5 pedicle. So this is the C5 pedicle, and the C5 nerve root comes above the C5 pedicle. And here again, when you see the nerve roots which are coming out from the cervical spinal cord is directly like a plus. So it has a horizontal course and it just leaves the spinal cord in a horizontal direction. Whereas in the lumbar spine, as we all know, the spinal cord ends at the level of L1, and below that it is the dural sac with the nerve roots. So the corresponding nerve root usually leaves below the corresponding pedicle. For example, the L4 nerve root here leaves below the L4 pedicle. Similarly, the L5 nerve root leaves below the L5 pedicle, and the L5 nerve root travels all the way from the L1 at the level of L1 where the cord ends. From the level of L1 it travels like this, and then it comes out below the L5 pedicle. This concept is very important because at the level of L4, the L5 is called as the traversing nerve root, and at the level of L5 it is called as the exiting nerve root. So at the level of L4 we will be having two nerve roots. One is the exiting nerve root and the other one is the traversing nerve root. I will be discussing about this concept later in the slide.